Hare Krishna. मैं सोचा था इंग्लिश में क्लास देना, मैंने हिंदी. Should I speak in English or Hindi?
English.
कितने भक्तों को अंग्रेजी समझ नहीं आती. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. कितने भक्तों को अंग्रेजी बिल्कुल समझ नहीं आती. हिंदी और इंग्लिश. Can we try English? So we're going to do verse 14 and 15. Is that okay? How do you speak louder? We're going to read text 14 and text 15. As a small purpose, we'll do that. Okay. Yeah.
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 26, text number 14. Hare Krishna. Kva saptahaya no balaha Kva mahadri vidharanam Tato no jayate shanka Vrajanatha tavatmaje. Translation. On the one hand, this boy is only 7 years old, and on the other, we see that he has lifted the Govardhan hill. Therefore, O King of Vraja, a doubt about your son arises within us. Text 15. Shri Nanda Vacha Shruyatam me vacho gopa Vetu Shanka cha vo arbhake Enam kumaram uddishya Gargo me yaduvachaha Shri Nanda Vacha Shruyatam me vacho gopa Vetu Shanka cha vo arbhake Enam kumaram uddishya Gargo me yaduvachaha.
Anyone can chant responsibly. Ladies, Mataji,
word to word meaning. Shri Nanda Vacha Shri Nanda Maharaj said, Shruyatam, please hear. me, me, my, vachaha, words, gopaha, my dear cowherd men, vetu, let it go away, shanka, the doubt, cha, and vaha, your, arbhake, concerning the boy, enam, this, kumaram, to the child, uddishya, referring, gargaha, the sage garga, me, to me, yat, which, vacha, spoke, ha, in the past. Translation and purport. Nanda Maharaj replied, O cowherd men, just hear my words, and let all your doubts concerning my son be gone. Some time ago, Gargamuni spoke to me as follows about this boy. Sridhar Swami comments, the words previously heard from Gargacharya awakened Nanda Maharaj to the truth about Krishna, and thus, by Nanda's constantly remembering his activities, all thoughts about their being impossible ceased in him. Now, he is instructing the cowherd men with these same words. Please repeat the translation. Nanda Maharaj replied, O cowherd men, just hear my words, and let all your doubts concerning my son be gone. Some time ago, Garga Muni spoke to me as follows about this boy.
Om Gyan Sivrandhasya Gyananjana Shalakya Chakshurmilitaniyena Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Sapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadayam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamanan Shri Gurun Vaishnava Shri Rupam Sarajatam Sadhe Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Opeda Sapta Krishna Gaurangi Hare Vancha Kalpa Tarbhyasya Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Paritana Pavanebhya Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna. Everyone is enjoying the non-stop rain. Okay. First time. So, this chapter is called Wonderful Krishna. Krishna is wonderful, isn't he? This chapter is called Wonderful Krishna. Why? Because it's summarizing the inconceivable pastimes that were executed by Krishna. Janma karma chame devyam emam veditattvada. My appearance and disappearance are both devyam. What does devya mean? Beyond the material modes. His appearance and disappearance are both completely transcendental. Transcendental means you can't really understand the Lord with the material senses. So how can you understand the Lord? As we read in the scriptures, Simukhe, the path of devotion. So Nand Maharaj And Maharaj had the experience previously. Nand Maharaj had gone to the astrologer, Gargamuni, to make a horoscope for two of his sons. And Gargamuni, what did he say? These two boys are exception. And his elder brother, Krishna, is like Narayana, beyond the material mode. So from the very beginning we see the Lord performing superhuman activity. For example, when the Lord appeared, he appeared in a transcendental form. He appeared in his transcendental form because he wanted to assure his parents that now I have appeared, do not worry. I have appeared. And when he was requested to transform to an ordinary child, he did that. So Krishna, when he appears in his transcendental form. So there may be so many people claim him to be avatar. Avatar means one who descends from the spiritual world. So Krishna, from the beginning, performed superhuman activity. So these modern day avatars, call them, can you at least duplicate one of the various leelas that Krishna performed? What is the answer there? That's it. Has done so far, it doesn't mean he won't do it tomorrow. So that's Prabhupada used to call four-shaded checks. So Krishna from the beginning performed superhuman activity. He was a young child. He killed these powerful demons. Putana was sent by Hamsa. And Putana, her life was taken by the Supreme Lord. Krishna sucked from her breast, sucked the milk, and Putana died. So these Brijvasis were used to seeing so many superhuman activities. Krishna killed one demon after another. Then he pushed a cart, and when he was just a few months old. Can you imagine a few months old baby pushing a cart that comes stumbling down? And he was just a young boy. He killed so many demons. And Krishna's father would just meditate on the words given by Bhagavad. Bhagavad had told them, your son is not going to be an ordinary child. He's going to be somebody extraordinary, just like Narayana. And from the very beginning, he was displaying superhuman activity. Krishna, once, Mother Yashoda told her son, have you been eating dirt? Is there a shortage of anything in my house? And Maharaj had 900,000 cows. And he had over 20 cows that they were giving specially flavored milk. These days, if you want to add flavor to milk, you have to add it on the top. But these cows would give perfume to milk. So when Balaram and the others came to Krishna and came to Mother Yashoda and said, your son has swallowed dirt. She wouldn't believe it. Why should my son have to swallow dirt? And he said, if you don't believe me, I will open my mouth. And when he opened his mouth, what did his mother see? His mother saw all the universes, all the modes of nature. Okay. Because he is all the demigods. And she was bewildered. Am I seeing reality or is it just a dream? So Krishna was performing superhuman and flies. Krishna from the beginning was performing superhuman activity. Then when they saw that, she tied Krishna down. Krishna was also known as butter thief. If somebody calls you thief, we take it as lightly. No, you say, you're insulting me. The devotees, when they use the word makan chor, they get great. Krishna delights himself in that thief. So Krishna was very fond of stealing butter. He would go and steal butter from the neighboring houses. And the beauty of Krishna was he never got caught. I think I told you all that story. Once, when our temple opened in Los Angeles, at that time, our movement was relatively young. So, devotees, thinking that anything can be done for Krishna, they would go to the neighboring houses and pluck the flowers from the neighboring garden and offer it to the deities. So these neighbors started wondering, what's happening to our flowers? Previously these flowers were always there. Now they're gone. So they decided to detect it. And they saw the Hare Krishnas were coming and stealing water. So the next day, one of the neighbors shot a pellet. Pellet is a bullet, but it doesn't kill. So this news was given to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, if you want to steal, you have to be like Krishna. He never got caught. But if you're going to get caught, then you don't steal. What Prabhupada was saying is don't steal. So Krishna never got caught. And Krishna was known as Makancho. And Krishna was performing superhuman activity. Visuddha mother, she would be churning milk in the morning. And she had composed a song that summarized Krishna's various pastimes. And because Mother Yashoda was totally absorbed in chanting the song describing Krishna's pastime. So Krishna tried, Mother Yashoda tried her best to stop Krishna from stealing. The neighbors would say, your son is coming to our house and stealing the butter, stealing milk, everything. And Mother Yashoda would say, why should my son come and steal from your house? You think I'm poverty stricken? My husband has 900,000 cows. Why would he steal? So Krishna tried, but he never got caught. Once the neighboring gopi had gone with the other gopis for a bath in the Yamuna, and she came back with a normal schedule. So then she caught Krishna. He said, now I've caught this thief, red-handed. Your mother always says, where is the proof? Here is the proof. And she was dragging Krishna with her hand to Mother Yashoda. On the way, Krishna picked up the neighboring gopi's son, and very tactfully, Krishna took his fingers out and put the neighboring gopi's son's fingers there. So when they reached Mother Yashoda, she said, you always say, where's the proof? Here's the proof. Look. And then she said, this is not my son. This is your son. Because Krishna had replaced his fingers with Krishna. So Krishna was always superhuman. And when Krishna saw that he was very mischievous, Krishna was very mischievous. The mother didn't want the son to steal from the neighboring house. Krishna always stole, never got caught. And sometimes Krishna would pass urine and pass a clean place in the house. So Krishna's activities were all amazing. That's why this chapter is called Wonderful Krishna. Krishna is God, not an ordinary God. Ishvara Parama Krishna, such is another. Radha Govinda, Vakana. He is the Supreme Lord. And Vyasadeva calls these pastimes superhuman pastimes of the Lord. So Krishna from the beginning displayed superhuman activity. For Mother Yasoda finally got so restless, she said, now I must tie him down. So Mother Yasoda wanted to tie the baby down. She was trying to tie the baby, the son. She wanted to give him a light punishment, not a heavy punishment. Because she saw, he got very scared when she displayed a stick. So Mother Yasoda tried to tie Krishna down. She first took one rope, and the rope was how many fingers short? How many? How many? 2. Then she took the other ropes. She took all the ropes. She took all the ropes that one could possibly get. And even with all this, the end result was it was 2 fingers short. And these 2 fingers have a great symbolic message. One finger the acharyas maintain represents that if you want to understand God, you have to what? Endeavor. You have to make an effort. And then by the mercy of the Lord, you will be able to understand Him. If you don't make an effort, then you can't understand the Lord. If you don't make an effort, you won't get Krishna's mercy. They say in English, God helps those who help themselves. So when Krishna sees, here is someone making a serious endeavor, and he reveals himself. So, when they saw the tried to tie her son down, but she was not successful. The elderly gopis were just watching this encounter, and they were saying, good! When we went to Mother Yasoda and complained her son was stealing, she would say, where is the proof? Now, she's getting a taste of her own medicine. Now, her son cannot be tied down. So Mother Yasoda started perspiring. And then Mother, what did the son do? The son felt sympathy upon his mother. And then the son agreed to be bound by the ropes of Mother Yasoda. But Krishna got tied down. But later, at the end of 100 celestial years, what happened? Krishna pulled that 2 Arjuna trees also. The 2 Arjuna trees were cursed by Narada Muni. Become trees, but where? Not in the modern city. In the courtyard of Maharaj. And along with that, he had a benediction. What was the benediction? At the end of 100 celestial years, you'll have darshan of the Lord. And so Krishna, he was tied to the mortar, but he remembered, my devotee, Narada, has given them the benediction, and they will be able to see me at the end of 100 years. What did Krishna do? He pulled down the two huge Arjuna trees. They fell, just missing the Lord by hardly a centimeter. So Mother Yasoda was in the kitchen. She heard this heavy noise of two trees falling on the ground. She came running. What happened? What happened? What happened? The other cowherd boy said, your son pulled these two trees down. And Mother Yasoda would not believe it. She said, how can my young son pull down two huge trees? You're mistaken. Must be the strong winds that knocked it down. Mother Yasoda would not believe that Krishna had pulled the two trees down. So Nand Maharaj, they were getting exposed to different pastimes of the Lord. Every time Krishna would perform some superhuman activity, and then they would remember, yes, this was predicted by Garga Muni, that our son will be equal to whom? Equal to Narayan. The son is going to be equal to Narayan. In the beginning, the Brijvasis were surprised. How can this young boy perform such miraculous activity? But then they started remembering, yes, this was foretold by Garga. He said the son will be like Narayan. So it is not surprising that he is performing superhuman activities. So wonderful Krishna performing so many activities. In the Krishna book you read about so many pastimes of the Lord. And the Lord performed these pastimes with complete ease. Because the demigods also try to test the Lord. But what happens? The demigods get defeated by the Lord. So Krishna, from the beginning, is performing superhuman activities. Krishna and Balaram, in this verse, you find reference to the story of Govardhan Hill, where Krishna lifted the gigantic hill. So Govardhan Leela is one of the favorite stories that devotees enjoy. And in this verse, reference is made to the Lord performing Govardhan Leela. So Krishna and Balaram were getting ready to do what? To do the annual Indra Yajna for the pleasure of Indra. Demigods have a tendency to become proud, and demigods have a tendency to become proud, and they sometimes think they are equal to the Lord. So the Lord feels it is his duty to bring them to the right path. So Krishna and Balaram saw that this Nand Maharaj, along with the other Brijvasis, were preparing a big sacrifice, very big sacrifice, not a small sacrifice, for the pleasure of whom? Indra. They were preparing, he would sacrifice the pleasure of Indra. So Krishna and Balaram said, Father, who is the sacrifice being arranged for? And the father didn't respond. The father said, my son, he's a young boy. He won't understand all that. Then he did it for the second time. He didn't reply. Then the son said, Father, you're supposed to have no secrets from your children. Please tell us what this is. And then the father explained. He said, we are farmers. Our success is based upon what? Rain. What does Krishna say? Food grains are produced from rainfall. And rainfall comes when there is dharma, yajna. And if there is no yajna, it doesn't. These days you see, in many parts of the world, there is drought, there is floods, other natural disasters. Why? Because there is so much aparadh, so much sinful activity going on the planet. So material nature strikes and you don't follow the laws. So Nand Maharaj said, we are farmers and our success is based on cooperation from Indra. So then Krishna spoke. This is not right. According to your karma, you're going to get what is due to you in any case. So Krishna, by his arguments, he convinced Nand Maharaj. What? That this yearly sacrifice that they do is not really necessary. Whatever karma they have, karma vivamsa, you're going to get a reaction in any case. Oh, they don't have to. They don't have to worship the demigod. So Nand Maharaj was convinced. What was he convinced? That this sacrifice is not needed. So all the elaborate sacrifice that was prepared for Indra Yajna got transferred to Govardhan. Krishna said, worship the cows, worship Govardhan, and worship the Brahmanas. So they were influenced by giving up the annual yagat for Indra's pleasure. And the Lord said, do a worship, and then the Lord assumed the form of Govardhan and said, I am the Govardhan mountain. And he accepted all these offerings that were initially prepared for Indra Yajna. So when Indra saw that this sacrifice that had been prepared for me had got diverted, what did Indra do? He was very angry. The demigods get angry also. They were very angry. And what did Indra do? He ordered the Samataka clouds to go over the Braj area. These Samataka clouds are very heavy. When they move, they make heavy thundering sound. Last 1 week you have experience of heavy rainfall in Bombay, but I don't think you had even a percentage of that thundering noise that gets released when some of the clouds come over here. So Indra ordered some of the clouds to go above Vrindavan, and his plan was drown the Brijbasis. In a way, if you analyze, it was a cruel, criminal idea. So the Samadaka clouds came over the Braj area, and Indra said, and I'm going to follow you, my elephant Airavata. So the water, before it was heavy rainfall, and even before the water would touch the earth, it would get dried up. So Indra's plans were not being successful. And during the period that this heavy rainfall was taking place during that period. All the Brijvasis were looking at Krishna's face. Initially, when the Krishna lifted the Govardhan hill, the Brijvasis were scared. That boy, young boy, 7 years old, he wants us to come and stand underneath the umbrella of the hill. Well, really, he will not be able to carry all of us. And the mountain may fall out at any time. So then, Krishna said, "Don't worry, I guarantee this mountain will not fall. Don't worry, I am." And then, just with one finger, which finger was it? The left hand, the small finger, on the nails of the small fingers, left hand, Krishna lifted the Govardhan. And all the Brijvasis, what did they do? They came and took shelter of the Govardhan hill. They came and took shelter. And for 1 week, day and night, it was raining. What was Krishna doing? Lifting the Govardhan hill. And during the period that they lifted the hill, the Brijvasis did not feel any hunger or any thirst. Normally, you feel hunger and thirst at regular intervals. But during the period that Krishna was lifting the Govardhan hill, the Brijvasis were just looking at Krishna's face, and they were so satisfied, they did not feel any hunger or thirst. So when we absorb ourselves in spiritual subject matters, you can forget material hunger and thirst. In the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, Parikshit Maharaj says that Parikshit Maharaj was fasting. So in the 10th canto he says, he got so much nectar from hearing the pastimes of the Lord, and he did not feel any hunger or thirst. He was totally satisfied. If we want to be totally satisfied, here is the remedy. And the remedy is absorbing yourself in the pastime. So Krishna was lifting the Govardhan hill, and at the same time was lifting the hill, and after 7 days, Indra realized, my attempt is not going to be successful. Indra realized he made a mistake. And then what did Indra do? He ordered the Samudra cloud from going back. So this Leela of Govardhan, where over here also the purport is mentioned, the Brijvasis was surprised. How can a 7-year-old child lift a Govardhan hill? Is it possible? No. They were wondering, how can a 7-year-old child do this? And during the period they were under the umbrella, no thirst, no hunger. Right now in the material world, we are constantly experiencing material hunger and material thirst. That means we want to satisfy ourselves with material achievements. But can these achievements ever give you happiness? What does Balarama say? Nata vidam spatagatam Vishnu. People do not know how real satisfaction can be obtained. So, Krishna's pastimes are completely transcendental. Prabhupada was very keen that the pastimes of the Lord he revealed in an authentic manner. When Prabhupada came to the West, he had the manuscript of the Krishna book with him, but he didn't have it published. So when they were in New York, they were looking for a publisher who would be willing to invest money to print the Krishna book. And no one was ready. Everyone said, we've never heard about Krishna. No one was ready to invest. But at that time, ISKCON devotees in London had cultivated this famous singer, George Harrison. George Harrison was a devotee. He would chant, and he popularized chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. His Apple company produced a record on the Hare Krishna mantra that became a super hit all over the world, Western world. It was on top of all the charts. So George Harrison had just become a devotee. So Prabhupada told Shyamsundar. Prabhupada was in New York and Shyamsundar was based in London, cultivating the Beatles. So Prabhupada told Shyamsundar, why don't you ask George to finance the printing of the Krishna book? Prabhupada said, George? He's a brand new devotee. If I ask him to finance the printing, he may think we are after his money. Prabhupada said, don't worry. So he went there and he told, George Harrison told Shyamsundar told George Harrison, my spiritual master wants you to pay for the printing of the Krishna book. And George said, how much is it? And he gave the check right away. And then the original Krishna book was published in a deluxe edition. The ones that you see now are not on the same level. So Prabhupada wanted these authentic pastimes to be presented in its true form so that we can get purified. So here in this chapter we've seen the wonderful activities of Krishna. Krishna's activities are always transcendental, and Indra and Suravika came and apologized. Even the other demigods like Brahma, Shiva, they were also tested, and they were also defeated. So Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna's activities are all transcendental. And we should never view this from a spiritual angle. And now, having come to the understanding Krishna is Supreme, we should try and focus on meditating on Krishna. When two Yamunarjuna trees were pulled down by Krishna, the two Yamunarjuna trees, they're full of flies. The two Arjuna trees were pulled down. They said, now onwards, with our tongue, we will always glorify you. Now onwards, with our ears, we hear your glories. Now with our legs, we walk to the temple of worship. In other words, in ignorance, we did many activities. But now that we have come to understand pure devotional service, we will only do those activities that are conducive for spiritual life. So as we hear the Krishna book and we read these stories, we see that as we absorb ourselves in these pastimes, then we get purified. So we should seriously study these pastimes. And these pastimes you can read again and again. Materially, you may read a story once, twice, and then get tired. But these spiritual stories, you ever get tired? People say, you chant the same mantra every day, don't you get tired? You read the same book every day, don't you get tired? You hear the same philosophy every day, don't you get tired? We say, no, because this is all everlasting. So Krishna's pastimes and the 10th canto are relishable. And devotees take great pleasure in hearing these pastimes And the more we hear, the more we get purified. So it's nice. And in the 10th canto, you have a summary of the vast Srimad Bhagavatam, and we should endeavor to hear these pastimes. And the more you hear, the more you get purified. So we hear, we see Krishna's childhood pastimes. They surprised everyone when they saw these pastimes. The Brijvasis couldn't believe it. They could not believe that a child was born that dressed up. And the child took away a demon's life. They couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe it. You open the mouth, you see the whole universe. But Krishna, the Supreme Lord, is the Supreme Lord. Why? Because he performs superhuman activities. So if you want to be God, you want to be called God, then perform superhuman activities. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, when he appeared, he performed superhuman activities. So the genuine avatar descends from the spiritual world, performs superhuman activities, and by resolving ourselves these activities, we get purified. So we should read these books and study Prabhupada's books. There is great emphasis upon distributing books. And now in ISKCON, we are making a serious endeavor to get devotees to read these books also. If we read these books, then what will happen? Your spiritual knowledge will become sharper and be easier to reject children. So we should spiritualize our lives more by reading and listening. We should not only worry about distribution, we should worry about reading. And if we read them regularly, then what will happen? You will have sharp intelligence with which you can easily reject what is detrimental. So to summarize, over here we read about Krishna performing his childhood pastimes, which are all superhuman. And by listening to these superhuman qualities, you get purified. Hare Krishna. हम भक्तों को समझ आया है नहीं, सबको समझ आया है नहीं। यहाँ पे इन श्लोकों में भगवान की दिव्य लीला के विषय में पढ़ते हो, और जो ब्रजवासी थे वो आश्चर्य हो गए थे भगवान की दिव्य लीला को देखकर, किस प्रकार इतने असुरों का वध हुआ। Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you very much. You were mentioning that hunger and thirst. You mentioned hunger and thirst refers to material achievements.
But in the material world we have material hunger and thirst, which can never be satisfied. Yes.
So, but the mind says that because I am so much used to of aspiring for these things.
A lot of flies here. Okay. Yes.
And the concept of just being a servant of servant is so foreign to me since lifetimes. So then even in Krishna consciousness I need some achievements. Then only I'll feel I'm worth something, and then only I can stay and go on to think one day I will be attracted to the concept of servant. So in this consciousness, Maharaj, how to go on, because we look for material achievement.
In other words, I'm not sure if I understood the question. In other words, if you are endeavoring to get some result in devotional service. There's nothing wrong in that. That's book distributor says, I want to distribute so many books. That's my goal. Somebody may say, I want to read the whole Bhagavatam set in so much time. That's okay. Is that your question? And a desire to be servant of the servant, that is very good. In material life, to succeed in spiritual life, humility is very important. And humility gets you the Lord's mercy.
Yes, thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj, material achievement is also there, required, or we look for. But behind that we look for name, fame, recognition. And we feel that unless I get some name, fame, recognition from devotees surrounding me, so we don't feel encouraged to go on. So then, how to balance?
Even if you have material desires, keep endeavoring, keep chanting, and gradually you will get purified. Dhruva Maharaj went to perform austerities. Initially he had a material goal. I should get a kingdom, more opulent than my great-grandfather. But then he got so purified by meditating on Krishna and chanting the mantra that when the Lord offered him, he said, I was looking for broken cut glass, but now I found a diamond. No, I don't want it. So even if you have material desires, if you're sincere, then you can overcome that by the power of devotion. Krishna says, Chatuvida bhajanti mam. People come to me due to 4 factors. One of them is one's wealth. One's wealth. One who is in distress. He comes to me also. One who has knowledge. And one who is curious. So all are punyatma. The best is one who comes as a result of jnana, knowledge.
Thank you.
आप हिंदी में भी पूछ सकते हो, पूछना है तो.
Hare Krishna Maharaj ji. Thank you very much Maharaj for the beautiful class. You are mentioning about Indra being offended when Vrajavasis, they did not offer the yajna to him.
Annual yajna.
So I was just reflecting, it happens to us also, especially to me, that sometimes when the false ego is disturbed, we tend to go off the Krishna consciousness. So how to not get disturbed, how to remain dhira in provoking situations?
Ultimately, our effort should be to advance spiritually. Our effort should be to advance spiritually. And we should keep trying. Stay in good association. And keep trying. And you may have so many material reasons. They can get purified. If you keep chanting. This chanting is a solution to all your problems. Chanting means sadhana bhakti. If you observe sadhana bhakti and chant regularly, then you will be able to eliminate these anarthas. This is the cure for all diseases. One medicine to cure all disease. Sometimes people say, you only have one medicine. We say, yes. So we should chant. And our endeavor should be to do offenseless chanting. The purer your chanting, the more powerful the medicine will be. You can see yourself. If you chant and keep good sadhana, then you spiritually remain strong, enthusiastic. And if you become lax, then what happens? What happens? enthusiasm goes down. Isn't it? You can experience this all over the world. Any more?
Well, there are two online questions. So one question is, why a devotee seems to face more trouble in life than other karmis?
It's not always true. It's not always true. The devotee faces more problems than they should. May be true sometimes. We have to understand that we all have our history of karma. According to our history of karma, everyone gets a different dosage. And a devotee's understanding is that whatever punishment I'm getting has been greatly minimized by the Lord. And he has faith. If he wasn't a devotee, it could be a lot more. Prabhupada used to say, you put the appeal in the high court, then you go to the Supreme Court. They will reduce your punishment, but they give you token punishment. So, it's not a fact that every devotee gets suffering. You have so many devotees who are multimillionaires in a very comfortable position. So everyone gets his quota of happiness and distress. It varies from everyone to another. It's not that everybody gets the same dosage. Is that right? Is that right? Does everyone get the same dosage? So here's where karma comes in. Any more?
Yeah, there is one more question. So the question is, we hear and read about the pastimes of the Lord, but at times we don't seem to believe it to the extent we should. So how do we develop that firm faith?
Very good question. Just like sometimes devotees say, how can I get more attached to the holy name? How can I get more attached to the holy name? By chanting the holy name. How can I get more attached to Bhagavad Gita? By reading the Gita. So similarly, you get more attached to Krishna's pastimes if you read about them. So if you don't read, then you will never develop taste. So therefore, Prabhupada encouraged us to read these books, and therefore Prabhupada was very keen that a Krishna book be published as soon as possible, so that people get a genuine understanding of what are the real activities of Krishna. Because if you go to the kathas of Brajbasis, you don't get a true representation. Prabhupada gave Bhagavad Gita as it is. So, Krishna book also as it is. Yeah. So the more you read the Krishna book, the more you attach, you'll get to the whole Krishna book. जितना ज़्यादा पढ़ोगे, उतनी ज़्यादा रुचि बढ़ेगी. और पढ़ोगे नहीं, तो रुचि नहीं बढ़ेगी. Or more questions?
Yeah, last online question. How can we see Krishna's hands in our life?
How can we see?
Krishna's hand in our life.
Krishna is the controller of everything. Not a blade of grass moves without God's approval. Isn't that what we hear? So, Krishna's hand is everywhere. We cannot do something wrong. हम कुछ गलत काम करके ये नहीं बोल सकते ये तो भगवान की इच्छा थी, ये भगवान की इच्छा के अनुसार ये कार्य मैंने किया. कृष्ण भगवान ने हम सबको क्या थोड़ी स्वतंत्रता भी दी है और उस पर निर्भर है. भगवान का हाथ है. मान लो आपको चाहिए कोई महंगा मकान, फिर परमात्मा देखते हैं आपके कर्मों का क्या इतिहास है, और इसके अनुसार हमको जुहू में मकान नहीं मिलेगा और बोरीवली में मिलेगा छोटा सा, तो फिर वो सुविधा प्राप्त है। कर्म के अनुसार सुख और दुख प्राप्त होता है। प्रहलाद महाराज भागवत में कहते हैं, चाहे तुम कितना भी प्रयास कर लो, तुम्हें एक बूंद ज़्यादा सुख नहीं मिलेगा आपके कोटा से। कई बार हम बड़ा परिश्रम करते हैं ये सोचते हुए ज़्यादा परिश्रम करेंगे तो ज़्यादा सफलता प्राप्त होगी। प्रहलाद महाराज कहते हैं आपको एक बूंद ज़्यादा नहीं मिलेगा। Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you very much for a very wonderful class. You were mentioning about the Govardhan pastime, that how all the Vrajavasis, they became so absorbed in trying to hear the Krishna's flute and trying to observe Krishna in that lifting Govardhan hill. So I was just contemplating that you mentioned that always keep on chanting. You emphasize always on this point. So I am chanting, continuing to chant, but then somehow I have observed that I get affected by the situations around me, the time, place and circumstances, what time I chant and what are the devotees doing around me. So in this situation, if I don't become absorbed in my chanting, in sadhana, and then another level of struggle is in services. So how to become, Maharaj, absorbed in services also? We are trying to absorb in sadhana, somehow that it gets affected. And then in services, how to maintain that balance, especially absorption?
Everything is possible with determination. Now, the key to good sadhana, getting higher taste, is good sadhana. If your sadhana is good, chanting is good, then it is very possible that you get attached to the personal principles. And our endeavor is to eliminate the anarthas. And that is, if we eliminate the anarthas, what happens? Then it becomes easier to develop a spiritual taste. And if you have a spiritual understanding, then you can easily reject what is unfavorable. These anarthas that we have, they are the stumbling block. And we have to rectify that. Krishna says, Devesha gunamaya mama maya hridaya. To overcome this illusory energy is very difficult. But if you surrender to me, then you can. So what we need is follow the surrendering process. Is that a question? Is that a question? Any more? Yes. Yes. अब मुझे माइक में बोलना पड़ेगा.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, as a Grihastha, Maharaj, how many hours should we spend reading books and how can we assess our purification? Because due to false ego, I always thought I was pure only. But how can I assess that I am going in the right path? How can I assess myself?
Well, you can take assistance from Guru Sadhu Shastra. If you have doubts, you can go to somebody more advanced and present your doubts. We should not hesitate. Goswami encourages us to have 6 types of rasas. And one of them is, reveal your mind to those who are more advanced. 2, take instruction. So if you're in doubt, मैं ठीक कर रहा हूँ या गलत कर रहा हूँ, आप किसी उन्नत भक्तों की संगत से पूछो. Is that right? The avenues are there. You just have to take advantage of it.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj. My question is, sometimes fulfilling of material desires help us to do spiritual practices satisfactorily. So, is it the right thing or wrong?
Can you repeat?
Sometimes fulfilling of material desires help us to practice spiritual things with more satisfaction. So, is this the right thing to right understanding?
It all depends. Like there was one bogus teacher, he's no more. He was preaching the philosophy. Exhaust your material desires, then you can come to the spiritual life. So they say, exhaust your material. You can never exhaust your material desires. It's like an itching sensation. When you scratch, you get some instant pleasure, but then the disease becomes worse. So the Vedas say, ignore these activities from the beginning. Vyasadeva doesn't say, first try to satisfy your material desires and then come. Material desires can never be satisfied. Okay. Any more? We'll take one or two more questions and
Hare
stop.
Krishna Maharaj. My question is, like, initially when we get into the association of devotees, we are very strong and we are very determined and we are very much enlightened, but gradually as it takes time, it fades away. Like how do we
The
deal with that?
enthusiasm
Yes.
fades away. What is the solution? The answer is very simple.
Yes, the enthusiasm.
Yeah. This is a question that devotees ask always. The answer is simple. If you keep your sadhana steady, you do your rounds, chanting, etc., then there's a very good chance your enthusiasm will remain to the end. What happens? We slacken. हम लोग सोचते हैं कि बस अभी हमारा सब आदतें ठीक हो गई हैं, हम ढीले हो जाते हैं साधना में. जब ढीले हो जाते हो आपका उत्साह भी ढीला हो जाता है. अगर आप चाहते हो कि आपका उत्साह अंत तक रहे तो आपको साधना पर ध्यान देना चाहिए. And you can experiment it yourself.
Sorry Maharaj, could you tell in English like what you told?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat?
Could you please repeat what you told exactly?
I said our enthusiasm is based on our effort. अगर आप अच्छी साधना रखोगे, English. You don't understand Hindi?
I find it difficult.
Okay. So, if you think that, if you keep good sadhana means chant rounds in the morning, come to the spiritual programs, read, then there's a very good chance that your enthusiasm will always be strong. But if you become weak in that, then the result is enthusiasm becomes low also. You follow?
Can I ask another question, Maharaj?
Yeah, sure.
The other question I wanted to ask is, as a, like in a student life, up to what amount should your sadhana be strong?
Can you repeat it?
In a student life, up to what amount should your sadhana be strong? Like,
Well, the sadhana should be strong regardless of whether you're a student or working or whatever. Sometimes you may have some exams and you may become a little weak in that period. But that's an exception. But in principle, we should follow the sadhana. But sometimes you may have an exam and you may have to make some temporary adjustment. That is not permanent. Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah.
Just like you mentioned that when confusion comes, we approach Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. So our seniors are so merciful that when we open our heart to them, we will get the instructions. But at times it happens, we want to follow that instructions, but somehow or other we missed that. So how to be consistent, how to perform as per the expectation.
Stay in devotee association. That is most important. Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Sadhaka. Dava Matra Sadhu Sangha. Dava Matra is 1/14 of 1 second. So stay in devotee association. And you can ask your colleagues, Prabhu, is there anything you think I should rectify? हम चाहते हैं कि हम लोग सब हमारी तारीफ करें, हमें पूछना चाहिए आपको कुछ कमी दिखती है मेरे आध्यात्मिक मार्ग में, और अगर कोई कमी सुनाए तो वो है आपके पास मित्र. Your real friend is one who tells you how to rectify, not one who flatters you. हमारी आदत है कि सब हमारी तारीफ करें, ठीक है, तुम कितने अच्छे हो, तुम बड़े, तुम्हारे में सारे गुण हैं. हमें पूछना चाहिए, बताइए क्या कमियां हैं. भक्ति सिद्धांत जी कहते थे कि जो व्यक्ति आपकी प्रशंसा कर रहे उससे आपको सावधान रहना चाहिए. ओके.
हरे कृष्णा महाराज जी, दंडवत प्रणाम. हम हमारे सारे एक्शंस जो कि डिवोशनल सर्विस से अलग है, उन्हें कैसे कृष्णा की सर्विस में इंगेज कर सकते हैं, जैसे कि इंटरेक्शन विद फ्रेंड्स हो गया एंड आवर स्टडीज which are there and interaction with the other things, how we can consider them as a service to Krishna, means how can we engage them?
Some you can engage, some you can't. You can't engage all your material things in Krishna consciousness. But let's say you want a very good job. You can work hard, get some good education, and hope to get a good job. But if you have some anti-law, some illegal activity you want to do in Krishna Seva, that cannot be compromised. समझे?
Yes महाराज जी. Okay.
अगर आप किसी कार्य को जोड़ना चाहते हो भगवान के साथ, तो जो शास्त्र पर आधारित है उसे कर सकते हो. अगर कोई शास्त्र के विपरीत कार्य है उसको डाउटेल नहीं कर सकते. So I think we'll stop here.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Okay. You said there are more questions?
2 more questions.
Okay.
Sometimes we get so much engaged in temple services that we lose taste and we don't even get time to do sadhana. So how we should overcome?
That should be avoided. प्रश्न ये है, कई बार हम इतनी सेवा में जुड़ जाते हैं कि जाप के लिए समय नहीं मिलता. तो ऐसी स्थिति से हमें बचना चाहिए. कभी एक्सेप्शन हुआ तो अलग बात है. It should not become a daily routine. ऐसे नहीं होना चाहिए रोज ही जाप का टाइम नहीं मिला. कभी कोई बड़ा उत्सव होता है, दशहरा हो जाए, It should not be daily Okay. Okay.
Last question is, if someone wants to go back home, back to Godhead in this life only, then what should he do strictly?
Very simple. There are many letters from Prabhupada where he says, if you chant your 16 rounds, follow 4 regulated principles, then you will definitely go back to Godhead. Prabhupada says that. Very simple. What is difficult in chanting 16 rounds? What is difficult in following 4 regulated principles? Okay. Yeah.
हरे कृष्ण। तो जैसे महाराज आपने अभी बताया पिछले प्रश्न में, किसी भक्त ने पूछा कि समय नहीं मिलता, इतनी सेवा होती है कि साधना के लिए समय नहीं मिलता। ये तो बहुत एक्सेप्शन केसेस होंगे, लेकिन हम ज़्यादातर देखते हैं कि हमारे पास समय ज़्यादा होता है फिर भी हम साधना नहीं करते। उस केस में क्या करें?
ये खतरनाक आदत है और हम एक दिन नहीं करते, दूसरे दिन नहीं, ये आदत पड़ जाती है, सुस्ती। और ये खतरनाक सुस्ती है। हमको ये आदत करनी चाहिए, सबसे पहले जप करोगे। Okay, we'll take 1 or 2 and stop. Yes. जल्दी जल्दी।
Hare Krishna Maharaj. In the beginning, when we have joined the institution, I have joined the institution, and when I was to read Srila Prabhupada's books, the instructions were very clear: chanting 16 rounds, or reading Srila Prabhupada's books, and we can go back to God and that. But when the years pass on, just and we try to understand the philosophy more and more and go deeply into it, so the standard of devotional service is so high, and our ability is there is big gap in it, and we feel that the chances to going back to Godhead is now there is no chance. The way I am progressing, ये life में तो नहीं जा सकते, ऐसे लगने लगता है. So how to overcome this hopelessness?
Very simple. आपको ऐसा कार्य करना ही नहीं चाहिए जिसके द्वारा आपको लगे रेड लाइट इज डेंजर। आप साधना को रखो और डेवलप ह्यूमिलिटी। क्या होता है एक समस्या, हम जब भक्ति में जुड़ जाते हैं हम सोचते हैं अब तो हम भी एडवांस हो गए, अभी तो हमने सब कुछ सीख लिया है, अभी हमें किसी के सहयोग की आवश्यकता नहीं। You reject all advice. You think you know best. और फिर आप ढीले हो जाते हो। We should always be willing to take direction. Humility का क्या मतलब? नम्रता से कार्य करना, taking direction. हम क्या सोचते हैं, दीक्षा हो गई, ब्राह्मण बन गए, सेवा थोड़ी जिम्मेदारी मिल गई, सोचते हैं now I've got captured everything. So we should remain humble. A devotee is recognized by seeing how humble he is, not that how great he is. अगर हम सोचेंगे हम कितने महान हैं, कितने प्रसिद्ध हैं, तो ये अहंकार से आपकी भक्ति में अड़चन आएगा। आप सोचो I'm निकम्मा, बेकार, I have to work hard. Then humility is very important. हम proud क्यों हो जाते हैं? हम सोचते हैं I know everything. So आपका real test है humility. हम कहाँ तक विनम्रता का भाव अनुकूल कर सकते हैं? That is most important. If you okay.
हरे कृष्ण महाराज। महाराज आपने बताया कि कैसे हम अगर स्ट्रॉन्ग साधना,
I'm sorry, can you speak louder?
आपने बताया महाराज कि कैसे हम स्ट्रॉन्ग साधना रखेंगे तो फिर हल्के हल्के हमारा हृदय शुद्ध हो जाएगा और भक्ति में प्रगति कर सकते हैं। महाराज कैसे कितना किसको हम माने कि ये स्ट्रॉन्ग साधना है, ये प्रभुपाद के ग्रंथ इतने हमको पढ़ना चाहिए, कितने घंटे हमको रोज पढ़ना चाहिए प्रभुपाद के ग्रंथों को?
ये डिपेंड करेगा फ्रॉम डिवोटी टू डिवोटी, कोई एक नियम नहीं बना सकते हैं। ऐसे तो कहा जाता है 1 घंटा दिन में रोज पढ़ना चाहिए कम से कम। तो ये निर्भर रहेगा आपकी सेवा के ऊपर भी। पर जैसे 16 माला का जाप करना, तो 1 घंटा पढ़ सको तो अच्छा है। Okay. Well, reading is very important. रीडिंग में कमज़ोर रहोगे तो सिद्धांत को पूरा समझ नहीं पाओगे। Just because you've been a devotee for 6-7 years doesn't mean you become self-realized. हमें ये नहीं सोचना चाहिए हम 7 साल पुराने भक्त हैं, हम सेल्फ-रियलाइज हो गए हैं। और जैसे कि अगर आपको कोई दर्द हो किधर, आप डॉक्टर के पास जाते हो, आप सीनियर भक्तों से पूछो आपको मेरे में क्या कमी दिखती है, मुझे क्या सुधार करना चाहिए। हम पूछते नहीं हैं ये किसी से, हम वी अज्यूम आई एम ऑन द राइट ट्रैक। इसके कारण हम घमंडी बन जाते हैं और विनम्रता का भाव नष्ट हो जाता है। Okay, so we'll stop now. Hare Krishna.